Imagine walking into a room full of laughter, balloons, and cake, only to leave that same night with your marriage in ruins. That's exactly what happened at a birthday party no one expected would turn into the beginning of a courtroom battle. This wasn't just a fight or a misunderstanding. It was the unraveling of a love story that ended where no one imagined, in divorce court. And the way it all played out left friends, family, and even the judge stunned into silence. Before we dive into this powerful story, let me welcome you. If you're new here, make sure to subscribe to our channel for more daily stories filled with lessons, suspense, and the raw truths of life that remind us how fragile our relationships can be. Now, let's begin. The night started like any other celebration. The husband had planned a surprise birthday party for his wife. The venue was beautiful, decorated with golden streamers, fresh flowers, and the glow of candles across the tables. Guests cheered as she walked in, overwhelmed by the sight of family and friends gathered just for her. Cameras flashed, music played, and for a moment, it seemed like the perfect picture of love. She hugged him tightly, tears of joy rolling down her face. Everyone thought, this couple has it all. But behind the smiles and the carefully chosen decorations, something was waiting to surface, something that had been hidden for far too long. The wife noticed small details that night, details that most would overlook. A whispered conversation between her husband and one of the guests. A strange glance that lingered too long. And then, a gift placed on the table with no name. When she opened it, her heart sank. Inside wasn't just a present, it was proof of betrayal. The room that had been filled with laughter just minutes earlier grew tense. Guests exchanged nervous looks. The husband's smile vanished, replaced by panic. She stood frozen, her hands trembling as she held the evidence that shattered her trust. The music faded into silence, and the party became something else entirely, a scene of truth, anger, and heartbreak. What began as a birthday celebration quickly turned into a public confrontation. Words flew like daggers, raw emotions spilling out in front of friends and family. The wife's voice trembled as she demanded answers, while the husband stumbled over excuses. The guests, once cheerful, now sat quietly, not knowing whether to stay or leave. The atmosphere was heavy, suffocating, as if everyone in that room knew they were witnessing the end of a marriage. And in that moment, it became clear. This wasn't just a fight that would fade with time. This was the start of a storm that would move from the decorated hall straight into the courtroom, where every secret would be laid bare and every word would matter. But how did one gift at a birthday party destroy years of love and trust? And what happened when the truth was finally spoken under oath? That's where the story takes an even darker turn. The silence after the confrontation at the birthday party was unbearable. Guests tried to break the tension by whispering among themselves, but every word spoken by the husband and wife cut through the room like a blade. She clutched the mysterious gift tightly, refusing to let it out of her hands. It wasn't just a present, it was a revelation, a symbol of betrayal she could never unsee. Her eyes were locked on him, and his face revealed the guilt he couldn't hide anymore. The husband tried to regain control of the situation, forcing a smile and insisting it was all a misunderstanding. He claimed the gift was just from a colleague, nothing more. But his voice cracked, his hands shook, and the excuses felt thinner than paper. The wife's tears streamed down her face, not out of confusion, but out of certainty. She knew this was no innocent mistake. A friend, finally stood up, attempting to calm things down, suggesting they take the argument outside. But it was too late. The party was ruined, and everyone in the room knew they were witnessing something much bigger than a marital spat. The wife's fury had reached a breaking point, and she wasn't going to hide behind closed doors. "You've lied to me for years," she shouted, her voice trembling but fierce. "And you thought I wouldn't find out?" The husband dropped his head into his hands, defeated. In that instant, the perfect image of a happy marriage shattered before the eyes of family and friends. Whispers spread across the room like wildfire, guests wondering how long it had been going on, who else knew, and why it all had to come out now. What was supposed to be a night of joy had transformed into an unforgettable scene of truth and devastation. The next day, what happened at the party was all anyone could talk about. Friends who had attended the event couldn't stop replaying the moment in their minds, and word quickly spread beyond the circle of family. The wife wasted no time. She went straight to her lawyer, the gift still in her possession, determined to turn her heartbreak into action. The betrayal wasn't just emotional, it carried financial consequences, and she wanted justice. Court papers were filed faster than the husband could have imagined. He had underestimated her strength. For years, she had quietly endured doubts, giving him chance after chance. But the birthday party had been the final straw. This wasn't just about infidelity anymore, it was about dignity, respect, and reclaiming the life she felt he had stolen from her. When the court date arrived, the birthday party confrontation became a key piece of the case. Witnesses were called to testify about what they saw and heard that night. The wife's lawyer painted a vivid picture: a man who had pretended to love and honor his partner while hiding behind lies that came crashing down in the most public way possible. But what would the judge say when all the details surfaced? And how would the husband try to defend himself against not only his wife's pain, but also the undeniable evidence that had been unwrapped in front of everyone? The courtroom was packed, every seat filled with curious faces who had heard about the birthday party scandal. Some came out of sympathy for the wife, others simply out of fascination with the drama that had unfolded so publicly. The air was heavy with anticipation, as if everyone knew they were about to witness a turning point in two people's lives. The wife entered first, dressed with dignity and calm determination. She didn't look broken, she looked ready. Her lawyer walked beside her, carrying a folder filled with evidence, including the very gift that had sparked the storm. Moments later, the husband entered, his once confident stride replaced with hesitation. He avoided her gaze, scanning the room nervously as whispers followed him like shadows. When the case began, the wife's lawyer wasted no time. He described the birthday party in detail, every word echoing like a dagger aimed straight at the husband's credibility. In front of family, in front of friends, the truth was unwrapped that night. A truth that destroyed not just trust, but years of vows. The judge listened intently, her face expressionless, but her silence spoke volumes. She was absorbing every detail. Witnesses were called, each one recounting the scene from that unforgettable night. A friend described the look on the wife's face when she tore the wrapping paper away and realized what the gift meant. Another recalled the husband's panic, his stammering excuses that only deepened suspicion. Piece by piece, the party that was supposed to be a celebration became a courtroom weapon, turning his lies into undeniable evidence. Then it was the husband's turn to speak. His lawyer tried to spin the story, claiming it was all exaggerated, that the gift was harmless, that the confrontation had been fueled by emotion rather than fact. But when he took the stand, his words faltered. He tried to explain, to soften the blow, but under the sharp questioning of the wife's attorney, cracks appeared. Every answer sounded less like defense and more like desperation. The wife sat silently, her hands folded in front of her, her eyes steady and unwavering. She didn't need to shout anymore. The truth was speaking louder than anything she could say, and with each testimony, the husband's empire of lies collapsed further. The courtroom grew tense as financial documents were presented, showing not only betrayal of the heart, but betrayal of responsibility. Hidden expenses, unexplained transfers, signs that the affair had cost more than just love. Gasps echoed across the room as the numbers were read out loud, turning whispers of gossip into undeniable facts. By the end of the day, it wasn't just a case about infidelity. It was a story of deception that touched every corner of their marriage. The husband's reputation was in tatters, his credibility shredded before the eyes of the court. But the final blow hadn't yet been delivered. The judge's voice cut through the silence like a blade, calm, measured, but with an authority that made every ear in the courtroom strain to catch every word. She began by acknowledging the weight of the evidence, the pain on display, and the betrayal that had turned what should have been a simple birthday celebration into a stage for truth. Her words were not rushed. Each sentence carried a gravity that forced everyone in the room to reflect, to think about how fragile trust really is. She spoke of marriage as a bond meant to be built on honesty, respect, and loyalty, and how once that bond is broken, it leaves scars far deeper than any financial loss. The husband sat with his head low, unable to meet her eyes. The wife, still steady, allowed a single tear to escape, but it wasn't a tear of weakness. It was a tear of closure. For her, this was no longer about revenge. It was about truth finally being acknowledged in front of the world. Then came the ruling. The judge laid out her decision, and the consequences were devastating for the husband. Financial penalties that reached into the millions, assets divided, reputations shattered. Every line of the judgment was a reminder of the cost of dishonesty. The birthday party had not just exposed an affair, it had destroyed everything he had tried to protect with lies. When the gavel finally struck, the courtroom erupted in whispers. The wife walked out, not triumphant, but free. She didn't need to gloat. She had reclaimed her dignity, her voice, and her future. The husband was left behind, surrounded by silence, realizing that one choice, one hidden truth, had undone an empire he thought was unshakable. But beyond the scandal, beyond the legal victory, lay a deeper message, one that every person in that room carried with them as they left. Secrets, no matter how deeply buried, have a way of surfacing. Lies, no matter how carefully constructed, eventually crumble under the weight of truth. And betrayal, no matter how cleverly disguised, will always leave behind consequences that reach further than anyone expects. So if you take one thing from this story, let it be this: trust is priceless, and once lost, it can never be bought back. Respect the bonds you make, because they are worth more than any fortune. And remember, what is done in darkness will always find its way into the light. Thank you for staying with us through this powerful story. If you felt the weight of this message, make sure to subscribe to our channel for daily videos just like this, stories that reveal the truth, inspire reflection, and remind us of the value of honesty. Until next time, take this lesson with you. Never underestimate the power of truth, because in the end, it always has the final word.